Don't you want to become a cult leader? Since the death of God, there's been a vacancy opened. You could fill that void. Here's how.
This is worth knowing, too, because if you're preyed upon by a psychopath, which you will be to some degree at some point in your life, the psychopath, who will be narcissistic, will presume that you're stupid and that you deserve to be taken advantage of because you're naive and stupid. So it's actually a good thing that he's doing it. And his proof for, and I'm saying he because there are more male psychopaths, the proof that you're stupid, naive, is that he can take advantage of you. And so, like, if you were wiser, you'd be, you know, you'd know his tricks, and then it wouldn't be morally necessary for him to show you just exactly who knows what about what. And so the psychopath will use his ability to fool you as proof of his own grandiose omnipotence, omniscience, and narcissism. And the problem with that is that you can be fooled by a psychopath, and virtually anybody can.
Scammers, some straight up scammers, some straight up so-called indigenous people with agendas that don't favor us. They're telling some of y'all that you can pay your way to become an Indian. You can pay to be an Indian. And I use the word Indian because that's the legal term, all right? I was talking to another indigenous person. I would refer to my tribes. I would not say Indian. So when I say Indian, please understand what I'm implying when I use that word. So I don't care what they're trying to sell you, what they're trying to tell you. You simply cannot do it that way. There's a few points that I want to make right now. First is that everybody has the right to self-identify. If you choose to self-identify as Aniyangwea, Tapani, or Powhatan, for example, and to identify as one does not mean that you have to join a tribe or a nation.
Nathan Chasing Horse walked into the courtroom Thursday morning and immediately made eye contact with his family. A man who identified himself as Chasing Horse's brother, shaking a rattle that was hanging on his neck. Chasing Horse often used a rattle in his ceremonies. His attorney, Mike Wilfong, points out to the judge the support Chasing Horse had in the courtroom.
Basically, our front row is present today. It's all family members. There's some additional family members, again, that did speak with me. He has a great deal of support.
The former actor was arrested outside his North Las Vegas home Tuesday night after police and SWAT swarmed in. Police say he led a cult known as the Circle, persuading underage girls to believe spirits wanted them to have sex with him. Documents say he also portrayed himself as the medicine man and had at least 6 wives.
Or when someone's trying to get you in a cult, usually if you get into a cult, you want friends or you have heard there's orgies. So you will say something to the cult leader like, yeah, you know, I do believe there's aliens. And the cult leader will be like, we do too. We do too. And not only that, but we believe that if you suck my dick, you will see more aliens.
Men who they say were posing as tribal police officers. Fox 5's Doug Evans reports that men are facing serious charges now.
Deputies say the man who steps out of this car is not a police officer, even though he's wearing a badge. Coweta County deputies say that's Edward Hanner. They say they pulled Hanner over on Interstate 85 because his car had no license plate and he had a headlight out. They say Hanner and his passenger, Edward Patterson, identified themselves as tribal police officers.
So he had it hanging around his neck. It looked like a police ID, you know, it looked like a police badge hanging around his neck.
And he identified himself as tribal police?
Correct. They said they were on official business heading up to Atlanta for an investigation.
Deputies say driver Edward Hanner had a suspended Pennsylvania driver's license. On the video and under the traffic noise, he can be heard telling the deputies that he's not required to have a license under tribal law. Deputies say they then checked with officers at the Cherokee Tribal Marshal Service, and they say they've never heard of Hanner and Patterson.
The deputy contacted the Cherokee Nation authorities, and he was told by them that they don't know who these people are. So at that point, they were taken into custody for impersonating a police officer.
Both men were taken into custody and charged with impersonating police officers. Hanner was also charged with driving on a suspended license. I'm Doug Evans, Fox 5 News in Coweta County.
Nathan Chasing Horse walked into the courtroom Thursday morning and immediately made eye contact with his family. A man who identified himself as Chasing Horse's brother, shaking a rattle that was hanging on his neck. Chasing Horse often used a rattle in his ceremonies. His attorney, Mike Wilfong, points out to the judge the support Chasing Horse had in the courtroom.
Basically, the entire front row is present today. It's all family members. There's some additional family members, again, that did speak with me. He has a great deal of support.
The former actor was arrested outside his North Las Vegas home Tuesday night after police and SWAT swarmed in. Police say he led a cult known as the Circle, persuading underage girls to believe spirits wanted them to have sex with him. Documents say he also portrayed himself as the medicine man and had at least 6 wives.
Don't you want to become a cult leader? Since the death of God, there's been a vacancy open. You could fill that void. Here's how.
Well, this keeps going. We have to ask you a question. How many of you are fathers here? Just be for real. If you're a father. Now, what if someone is overwhelmed by the Spirit of the Most High God, and he reads your scripture, and he take your daughter, and he just rape your daughter? What do you say to that? If he live like you live, walk like you walk, talk like you talk. Good question. Because y'all live amongst each other. Yeah. Y'all live amongst each other. So what happens when one of y'all feels so overwhelmed by the Spirit of God that when you see one of each other's daughters, you just grab her up? You gonna tell one of these brothers here, come on, you know the doctrine. You know how we get when you get.
Well, answer it. We just told you that.
How would y'all respond?
In this time, that was
But if it did happen, But if it did happen, you would allow it to happen. Why? Because you go back to the scriptures.
You're supposed to be a brother.
Hold on. You're going to allow one of your brothers to rape your daughter.
You're saying rape as if rape simply means to grab.
No. He's talking about. Now we read the verse. Where someone was in
the kingdom of heaven. Hey, look.
We read the verse, man.
When the kingdom is established, we're going to get women when they 12 years old.
Right.
All right?
Say it again.
As soon as they start in the kingdom of heaven, when their period starts, that's when they become a woman.
Okay.
All right? So we're going to deal with them when their period starts.
Right.
When their monthly starts.
Question.
Have sex with them. Have babies, man.
With 12-year-olds?
Brother, there's in the kingdom, we're going to do that, man. We're going to get them young. We're going to get them young.
And the kingdom is
the kingdom is right here, but the Most High is going to establish the kingdom, right?
Can I say something?
No, look up in Google women that were pregnant under the age of 12. You got 9-year-old women that were pregnant. You got 11-year-old that were pregnant. As soon as they get their period, they become a woman.
When did Eve become a woman? When did Eve become a woman according to the Bible?
When did Eve become a woman?
At what age did she become a woman according to the Bible?
It doesn't tell you whenever she got a period. The same thing with Mary.
I got your answer right here. I got your answer right here.
Why was the woman created?
The elder got the answer. 12 years old.
Hold up, the elder got the answer.
Okay.
This is
how old Eve was?
Yeah. No, not Eve, but just in general as far as
the woman created for? The brother asks. I think that's a good question.
We'll answer that.
I don't have the magistrate's name yet, but I'll get the magistrate's name. But once we get everything together, I'll be able to notify you guys exactly who is who and what is what. I'm just putting in a simple affidavit, giving them notice as well on my side.
Okay.
And then from there, you guys can start all the lawsuits, criminal complaints. I don't care. Go to the hose bar. Because I gave everyone a chance to walk away. No one wants to walk away because they think that they have the jurisdiction to do this. So my thing is, hey, go for it. So I will be contacting you soon as I can so-called talk to this damn magistrate. Once I find out what the magistrate is saying, then I will be contacting you guys, letting you guys know exactly what he's saying, but let the FBI know that I have been kidnapped and that the name on the document is a fictitious business name, and it's a criminal simulation going on over here, and you guys need to notify the Federal Trade Commission that my identity has been stolen. And I'll talk to you guys later.
Yes, sir. In a minute. The first law of stupidity is that everyone underestimates the number of stupid people. And the idea here is that no matter how many idiots you think you are surrounded by, you are lowballing the estimate. And his argument is the reason that you underestimate how many stupid people there are around you is because you're probably assuming that people are intelligent based on superficial and irrelevant criteria, like their job, their education level, their class, their race, whether or not they're eloquent, and other biases that you may have about assuming that if somebody is a certain way, that means they're not stupid. And he's arguing in this article that you're wrong. Those things are all irrelevant. So that brings us on to law number 2 of stupidity. And that is that the probability that a person is stupid is independent of any other characteristic. So the idea here is that every characteristic that you can imagine, whether it's gender, race, nationality, education level, income, any category you can imagine, is uncorrelated to whether or not a person is stupid. And Cipolla even says in this article, there are stupid Nobel Prize winners. So you can't predict whether a person is stupid or not by looking at any of these other characteristics that they might have. His argument is that there are stupid people in every walk of life, in every ethnic group, gender, class, profession, income level, anything you can imagine. And he goes on to argue that there's the same proportion of stupid people in any of these categories because it's uncorrelated to any of these categories. He makes the argument that he can't tell exactly how high that proportion is because everyone underestimates it all the time. But the main point is you can't use these other criteria to determine whether or not someone is stupid. And that brings us on to law number 3. And this is his idea that a stupid person causes losses to others without gains to themselves. So he's defining stupid behavior as a social thing, and he's saying it's about whether or not you cause losses to other people without benefiting yourself. So it's a social theory of stupidity, and it means that you can still be stupid if you are very good at, for example, mathematical calculations or pattern matching or lots of other things. You could be very good at all of these things, but you're still stupid if your behavior towards others involves losses to other people without you actually gaining. So in order to explain this idea, Cipolla creates this 2x2 matrix. So you have 2 variables and 2 different possible states of each variable, which gives you 4 possible outcomes. So just to explain these variables, so one variable is, are you causing benefits to other people or are you causing losses to other people? So that's the first variable, is your impact on others. Do you benefit them or do you cause them losses? And the second variable is, for yourself, are you benefiting yourself or are you causing losses to yourself? And if you combine those two, we get 4 different outcomes. So talking them through, first of all, you have people who benefit other people and themselves. And this is the win-win outcome where your actions in the world not only benefit you, but they also benefit other people, and you are a net positive wealth generator in the world. And Cipolla calls these intelligent people. So it's a theory of intelligence based on your behavior, your social behavior. Are you engaging in win-win interactions? So that's the first one. What about the people who cause losses to other people, but benefits to themselves? Well, Cipolla calls these bandits, and these are essentially criminals and thieves. If you imagine when somebody steals, what they're doing is they're causing a loss to you and a gain to themselves. So that's the second type. And then if you imagine there's a third type, which is people who cause benefits to others and losses to themselves. And Cipolla calls these helpless people. And there are other words that I've seen used. He sometimes calls them naive people. The idea here is that this is people who get taken for a ride. They benefit other people, but at a loss to themselves. And then the fourth group is what he defines as stupid people. And these are people who cause losses to others without benefiting themselves. And his idea is that a lot of the time, they're just messing things up for other people without any particular benefit to themselves. But there are also really stupid people who not only cause losses to others, but actually harm themselves actively. So stupid people are either just messing things up for everyone else without any clear gain, or even messing things up for everyone else and actually harming themselves as well in the process. And that's his theory of stupidity. That's what stupid behavior is. And of course, since this is 4 different outcomes from 2 variables, you can draw one of these 4x4 matrices that entrepreneurs love. And someone's done this. I've put it in the show notes. So you can see if you have on the x-axis loss or benefit to yourself, and on the y-axis loss or benefit to others, then in the top right-hand corner you have the intelligent people who benefit themselves and others. Then in the bottom right-hand corner you have the bandits who benefit themselves but cause losses to others. And then in the top left you have the helpless or naive people, or sometimes called hapless people, who benefit others but not themselves. And then in the bottom left quadrant you have the stupid people, who harm others and harm themselves. I'll put that graphic in the show notes so you can see it. An interesting part of his law number 3 about defining stupid people is that he also assumes that stupid people are consistent in being stupid. In other words, they go through life constantly causing losses to other people without clear gain to themselves. So it's an interesting idea that he's putting forward, that this is not just one-off behavior. There are people who are basically messing the world up through their stupidity, and they're consistent about it. So law number 4 of stupidity, according to Cipolla, is the idea that non-stupid people underestimate the danger of the stupid. And his argument is that non-stupid people constantly forget that at all times and all places and under any circumstances, to deal with and or associate with stupid people always turns out to be a costly mistake. And his argument here is that everyone underestimates just how dangerous stupid people are. Intelligent people underestimate it, but so do bandits and so do helpless people. And that brings us on to law number 5. And this is the most interesting, I think. Stupid people are the most dangerous people on the planet. And as part of that law, a corollary of that is that stupid people are more dangerous than bandits. And the argument is that if you have someone who is a criminal, a bandit, who wants to gain for themselves by robbing you or by causing losses to you, that person is predictable because they are following incentives. And they may be unethical incentives, they may be doing something that is fundamentally wrong, but at least you can work out what they're likely to do because they have goals and they follow incentives. So bandits you can defend against because you can work out what a bandit might try and do to rip you off. The really dangerous thing about stupid people is that they mess things up for everyone else without clear gain to themselves. And that means they're not following incentives. They're just causing problems. So they're fundamentally unpredictable, and that makes them incredibly dangerous. Even more dangerous than the people who you would identify as the real villains in the world. Stupid people are more dangerous than villains. So that's a summary of the article. As I said, I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to read the original, and I'll put a link to that graphic showing the 4x4 matrix of stupid people versus non-stupid people. It's a very interesting article, and I found it very thought-provoking. I like the idea of defining stupidity in terms of social behavior, because I have met very highly educated people who are very eloquent and articulate, who are also stupid in the way that this article describes. And I think it's really important to bear in mind that if you walk into a room full of highly articulate, educated people, there are going to be destructively stupid people in that group. And you shouldn't assume that just because people are highly educated or articulate, that they're not stupid. And by the same token, if you walk into a room of people who are ignorant, who are uneducated, you shouldn't assume that they're destructively stupid in the way that Cipolla defines in this article, because the two are uncorrelated. You can have ignorant people who are not stupid, and you can have highly educated people who are stupid. The idea that stuck with me most in this article, I've really been mulling over, is this idea that stupid people are the most dangerous people in the world because of their unpredictability. Cipolla argues in this article that we can do nothing about the stupid. And he makes the basic argument that you can't teach stupid people. You can teach ignorant people and they can learn, but his argument is that there are people who cause havoc for everyone else regardless of learning the facts. And his basic idea is that with stupid people, they just throw a spanner in the works for everyone else, and you just basically have to avoid them. And in the end of the article, he makes some comments about what this means for society. This is where the fact that he was a historian came in. He starts talking about how much impact do stupid people have on the rise and fall of civilizations.